Next up, we have got Margaret Heffernan. Again, everyone's got their bios that you've had a chance to read. So Margaret, you are there in the UK. You have got a book that's already out in the UK that folks can get. And by the way, we need you to turn your video on, Margaret. There you are. Called Uncharted, How to Essentially Predict the Future. You also wrote a book called Willful Blindness, How Usually the Obvious is Right in Front of Us. So a top 100 tech CEO and serial entrepreneur. Margaret, it's always straightforward from you. What the heck should we be doing right now? And what is the key opportunity you were sharing with me the other day?
Right. So I think the thing that's really important at this stage of the game is don't lose your ambition. You know, a lot of companies, a lot of individuals in a situation like this, which is unparalleled and where really absolutely nobody knows how long it will go on for or what will happen next. A lot of them have an instinct to hunker down, play small, think small, kind of play safe. It's really important to recognize that in very difficult moments like this, when an economy shrinks, there are enormous opportunities that you will never find any other time. So one of the companies that I've written about a lot and that I have enormous admiration for is a company called Method. They make home care products. They launched in the midst of the dot-com bust. They launched in the midst of a recession. They were a physical products for cleaning houses. That meant clicks and mortar, which was totally out of fashion. I mean, everything seemed to be going against them. But what they didn't do is they didn't quit and they didn't start to kind of curb their ambition. And what they discovered is that in a downturn, all kinds of people are prepared to listen to you, to work with you, to try stuff with you, that in a boom, they wouldn't even bother to return your emails. So the guys at Method reached out to some of the best industrial designers in the world to say, would you help us design absolutely spectacularly beautiful products? Again, you know, most of these people would think, well, you know, show us your millions, which they didn't have. But actually they found all sorts of people who weren't very busy and thought, what the heck, let's give it a shot. They reached out to retailers who were finding that all the big companies were scaling back. And so they had no really interesting new products on the shelves. So they said, you know, companies like Target said, sure, we just love to have something new to offer our customers. So don't scale your ambition back. Often you're going to get more attention in a moment like this than in any other time or any other phase of the economy. And don't forget that many of the world's great companies, most notably Microsoft, were started in the midst of recession. You know, on some level, any idiot can build a business in the midst of a boom, but this is a real test for your courage and your creativity and your initiative. And if you have the guts to ask, you'll often find people are much more open to you than at any other time in history. The second thing I'd say, you know, and of course it depends a lot at what stage your company is, but just do a million scenarios. You know, if you've got a workforce and you've got a cash flow issue and so on, keep recutting it and recutting it and recutting it. Don't just think about how do we stay the same. Think about, I mean, as Vern said earlier and as Brad said earlier, obviously think about pivoting, but also think about, well, what can we do with what we have? What else could it be turned to? What other applications might make it? Most entrepreneurial organizations take quite a while to find their sweet spot. And this is a safer time in which to do those experiments, especially those mind experiments, than ever. And do not do that alone. Don't be a loner. The idea of leadership, you know, being the person who sits in the tent all by themselves and comes out with the miraculous idea, there's a reason it's a myth. It's because it's a myth. And actually, you need ideas and challenge and wacky thinking from everybody who cares about you. So do a million scenarios. I've written recently about actually how Nokia turned into one of the most important internet companies today when they were having to get out of mobile phones. And they did that by doing a million different scenarios. And I guess thirdly, I think, you know, think about all the people that you relate to, your employees, your customers, the community you work with. Be really honest with them. don't feel you have to offer solutions you're not confident of, especially with your employees. Tell them the truth. Tell them when you don't know. I mean, I lived through the tech bust, and I got through the tech bust by being ruthlessly honest with everybody, telling them what I knew, what I didn't know, where we were, who we were talking to. And the consequence of that is everybody in that company built such bonds of loyalty. Many of them still work together today. So don't think you have to provide all by yourself the magic solution. Be really honest, ask for ideas, ask for help, be willing to give other people help with their ideas, and don't shrink. You know, this is a test. And to the degree that you stand tall and you're really straight with people, you will come out of this bigger and better than you can imagine right now.
Margaret, let me add on to that. So one of the things we put, by the way, thank you so much for always your straight talk. We'll put a link to where folks can get your couple of books in the summary. Our first C of the 5 C's is to communicate daily. And I want to be very precise about that. And I think whether it's a few sentences of email, I think we're going to talk about how important video is right now, whether it's an audio you leave on this, on your WhatsApp chat or Slack. Your employees are afraid and they want to know that you're there. And the key is, if you've got bad news to share, don't create what we call a shit sandwich, which is, hey, I'm going to put some good news, I'll bury the bad stuff in the middle, and then some more good. The godfather of influence, Robert Cialdini, said, hey, you want to build trust and believability, you put the bad news first in that message. And then here's what we're going to do about it. And as you said, don't make stuff up. I bet you're feeling, I think. No, you share the facts. You want to add to that, Margaret?
Well, I would also say, you know, don't set artificial deadlines. Don't say by this date it'll all be over, or by this date we'll be through the storm, or whatever, because you don't know. Nobody knows. Uncertainty is a fact of life. But I think, you know, every leader will tell you that they have communicated and communicated and communicated, and still, why don't people understand? And the truth is, there is no such thing in a situation like this as over communication. You will feel bored out of your mind, but the person who didn't hear it the 4th time will hear it the 6th time. And the fact that it's consistent and that you keep saying the same thing is what will build trust in you and in your leadership and in your business. So even if you're bored, remember, other people need to hear a consistent story about what's happening to them, what's happening to you, and what's happening to the business.
I also want to add on to the fact that you are absolutely right. There are people I've been able to have 15-minute conversations with that wouldn't have given me 15 seconds in the last dozen years, because all of our hair's been on fire. And look, I'll even say it with you, you are super busy, but I managed to get a call with you on Tuesday, and we really enjoyed connecting and having that conversation. And so
I think the other thing too is that the fact that you reach out to people in a moment like this will really consolidate a relationship that beforehand might have been quite fragile. So there are huge opportunities here to strengthen what you've already built, and people will remember.
And I want to end with this idea that right now you make or break your brand.
Yeah.
And so I want to say very specifically, this is the time you've got to do triage. Like our medical personnel, on your AR, on your AP, with your customer list, the things you're doing and you're not going to be able to do. And most importantly, I want you to take a piece of paper out, and I want you to make a list of all of the key relationships that you want to maintain through this crisis. Because what you don't want at the end of it, and it will come to an end at some point, is you don't want to look backwards and say, why did I do that damage? And so be clear who are the advisors, customers, suppliers, key employees. And then I want to be very precise. I want you to make a phone call to them and have a conversation. And so, Margaret, we're at 2:22. Thank you so much. Godspeed for all the delivery you're doing. You're in business delivering groceries for farmers right there in your community as a tech entrepreneur.
Well, entrepreneurs never die, right?
You got it. Margaret, thank you so much.